burnout is epidemic in our society. Burnout is epidemic in our corporations. Can you comment on that?
Thank you for asking that question, because when I think of practical things about how we lead our everyday lives, there's nothing like that, this idea that we have all just a cup of energy, and that every time we do something we don't want to do, we pour out, and that every time we do something we do want to do, we pour in. And how basically what burnout is, when you keep pouring out more than you pour in, and you're always, scraping the bottom of the cup until basically it breaks. What I find fascinating about burnout and about being drained, which is what a lot of people are experiencing, particularly post-pandemic, is that we have somehow constructed our workplaces as places where we just get drained. And then we are supposed to come home and get restored. And it does not have to be like that at all. If you think that work is a place where you get drained and you just drag yourself home and then now you're supposed to restore, we're going to be in for some disappointments, because what happens at home is that you're going to, if you have kids, your kids are going to put demands on you, on your willpower, so you're going to be continuing to pour out. If you have elderly parents, they might have illnesses that are going to make you pour out of this cup, so that basically your ability to restore will diminish until it's non-existent. So in order for us to really understand sort of the cup of willpower, we need to make sure that we're pouring into it during the day while we're working, as well as when we go home, potentially. And for what that requires is not getting higher salaries and getting more promotions. It's requiring us to do the work that we find interesting. So whenever people talk about lack of engagement, the way that people try to increase engagement and lower burnout is to give people more vacation time and, pizza Fridays or other things like this. Thank you for doing that. Thank you, Andrea, for doing that. Because it is embarrassing and it is demoralizing for people. People don't need pizza on Friday. They need to do work they find interesting, which means that there needs to be co-creation of interesting work, maybe role rotations, maybe ways to cross-train to keep people interested. We need to ask people about what projects, what aspects, what part of their work they find interesting, and guide them there. However, that means that we guide people towards things that are not necessarily their strengths, because we're interested in things that we don't know as well. So otherwise you would become an expert. Once you're an expert, you're no longer interested in. I feel like you want to say something. Go ahead.
I think it's all linked though to this other work, because if we develop ourselves, we know what we want. And it's similar to this wants and goals. We set these goals that perhaps someone else set for us, or we should have, like the salary or the promotion, instead of our wants that are in the moment. And we don't even know what we really want. We think we don't want cookies, but we really want something much deeper than a cookie. And if we do the development, we know what we want, and then and it's all related.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting. So if I need a hug, but I go for a cookie instead, like me knowing that I need a hug, yes, it's a bit more work, but eventually I can work towards a hug. And if I'm at work and I know that one kind of work is no longer stimulating, and I can go to my supervisor and say, hey, I'm still very motivated. I just need to pivot a little bit towards these kinds of projects, or I want to learn to work with this kind of technology, or I want to experiment a little bit here. That kind of flexibility, if you really want to increase engagement, this is the kind of insight that we need. Now, of course, the question becomes, are people supposed to take responsibility for finding out what they want in this kind of self-help way where they face, or are employees supposed to encourage them at the same time? Because an employer employer can't know what is it that you want, but it can encourage you to try to discover. And so that relationship, I think, is an interesting distribution of responsibility if we want more engagement in the workplace.
I had that conversation with the team last week that the answer is yes, it's both. It's the employee's responsibility and it's the leader's responsibility. Because if the leader says, oh, it's the employee's responsibility, then suffer the consequences of people who don't know. If you don't ask, they don't know. And if you as the leader are going to take responsibility for asking and engaging and helping them and coaching them, then you might get a different result than you're getting today. So I love
Yeah.
that you bring that up.
Education in the workplace is such a powerful thing.